Today in Arizona, the temperature was 111 degrees Fahrenheit, which is almost 44 degrees Celsius for my international friends, and our air conditioner quit working at 4 o'clock. The hottest part of the day. A new air conditioner is going to cost us somewhere around $5,000. Without an emergency fund of cash ready for a day like this, we would be stuck charging this on a credit card or seeking some other kind of expensive avenue. Thinking about this and sitting here in my hot house had me kind of inspired. Yes, our AC still isn't fixed, and this is a sweaty video just made for you. Let's talk about emergency funds, why Dave Ramsey is wrong, and what to do instead. First, let's go over the situation for most people, like where are we at? Depending on where you look for reference, it seems like we actually have a little bit less money on hand than normal. I thought that after stimulus checks and a year of suppressed spending that maybe we would keep a little bit more of our money, but it turns out we're actually down a couple percent from the norm. As recently as January, one study found that well under half of Americans have the cash to pay for an expense of $1,000, not $10,000, $1,000. The rest of us would just have to borrow to cover the bill. If we do that math, paying the minimum payment on a credit card that's like 18% interest, that would take 11.5 years to pay off that card. And that $5,000 I have to pay for this darn air conditioner would cost $8,100. That's like a price increase of 62%. I'm not doing that. Let's not do that. All of us together, let's not do that. So why don't we have money saved? Frankly, I have no idea. If you don't have a lot of cash saved, you can and probably should ask yourself that question. And that's not a shame thing. That's just a reality of like, why do I not think that this is important? You figure that out on your own. You deal with that how you decide. For some of the in-person conversations I've had, it really just feels like discipline is probably a big stumbling block for us because we don't really struggle to talk ourselves into treating ourselves like Tom Haverford. We're happy to go treat ourselves, but it's difficult to do the discipline thing and just save the money. That's like super boring. Nobody likes that. And I do this a lot personally. Like I'm here making YouTube videos for you to talk about money, and I do this exact thing. If someone got a hold of my Amazon and B&H photo purchase history and you made it public, I would be embarrassed. It has been a lot of money lately. You know what? This is YouTube. We should share our lives a bit. What the heck? Let's talk about it. Okay, what I've spent for this YouTube channel just this year, just really in video gear, so not counting like websites, legal fees, any other big things, I've spent a sickening $9,036. And it's July. Oh, so I'm guilty of that same logic. We're in this together. Let's talk about popular voices and their advice. Dave Ramsey and his baby steps are wildly popular, and I don't intend to bash the guy. Like, he's helped what must be millions of people by now over the last 3 decades to create some financial stability that they otherwise wouldn't have, or it would have taken them a lot longer to have. And that's amazing. And my goal is basically the same as Dave's. So we're mostly on the same page. I'll show you his baby steps here. Check these out. Part of baby step 2 that's not shown here on this list is to only keep $1,000 in cash. And this is to intentionally focus all of your attention on attacking the debt. The psychology of this is great. We have to focus hard on this. We have to change our habits and our norms. But for me, the pressure of only having $1,000 in cash after you just cut up all your credit cards is really just setting yourself up for failure. I'd have no access to a quick loan, not nearly enough cash to pay $5,000 for an AC unit, and a strong aversion to debt in general. That's not where I want to be. And I've seen people post on Reddit with these kinds of issues happening, people in baby step 2. And it's got to be happening to a lot of people because it often takes you several years to pay off the kind of debt that Dave recommends, so like everything but your mortgage. It's not going to happen overnight, even at maximum intensity. And I can't help feeling like we're making the wrong decision as homeowners or people with families or other potential life expensive things to only have $1,000 handy. And this isn't even getting into the fiasco that is the American healthcare system. $1,000? $1,000 is pennies to them. That's like what they charge you to look inside a hospital, not even get any service done. And you won't get the bill for like 45 days, so that's super annoying. What do we do instead? Obviously, the next step in Dave's baby step plan is to pump back up your emergency fund to a reasonable amount, like 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And I think that that makes sense in my non-professional opinion, sitting here sweating in my house, at least for most people. Let's say you live on $3,000 a month. That means you'd have somewhere between $9,000 and $18,000 in cash in a savings account ready and waiting for your beck and call. That's plenty for an AC unit and that pesky, lingering medical bill. Plenty for that suspension replacement that surprised you, and oh, by the way, you need new tires now too. Plenty for the vast majority of life surprises. And that's what I recommend for most people too. I have a hard time recommending less, even when you're in that super aggressive debt payoff mode. If you were determined to be crazy intense, maybe I could see limiting your cash on hand to like 1 or 2 months of living expenses, but that's still cutting it fairly close. And overall, having something like this is the buffer that we need to keep away from high interest debt and the corresponding stress we don't need. That's likely actually a more pressing issue here now that I think about it. Money is one of the leading causes for relational strife, and having like 15 grand in the bank absorbs a lot of stress when things get hot. Literally hot. Look at me. I'm just sweating right here. Sweating for you. Where should we keep this money? Well, you have a handful of options these days to store your emergency fund. Let's talk about 4. First, the normal bank savings account. And these are probably the most common place people keep cash, and it's definitely the easiest option. Like, you already have the account, just leave some money in there. The only problem with this location is the absurdly low interest. It is a joke. Our Wells Fargo savings account, literally today, I got a statement today, pays 0.01% interest. That's like pennies per year. It's a joke. There's got to be a better option. Option number 2 is CDs. Some people turn to certificates of deposit, and these are a way to get a slightly better interest rate for yourself by locking up a set amount of money for a set amount of time. And it's good that you earn more, but they often have penalties for touching the money early. You kind of have to leave it in there for the whole term. Unfortunately, right now, CD rates are also crazy low. For example, like right now, a decent one, this is actually decent, is an 18-month CD that pays 0.7% interest. Still not great, but it's way better than the bank. Definitely a contender. A third option is the stock market. And a lot of people do this. They just say, hey, what the heck, let's invest it. And they slap it in something relatively safe and diversified like an S&P 500 index fund or a total stock market index fund, and they call it a day. This has the potential to make way more money than the first two, which is great. And historically, these kinds of investments have made around like 10%, and that's astronomical compared to the first two, but that's over the course of many years. And so in the short term, you actually risk potentially losing money. So that's not a great place to be in during an emergency with having a lot less money than you potentially planned on. And the stock market overall, I would say, is a decent option. You stand to gain a lot, but it's possibly too risky for some people. The fourth option is the prize-linked savings account. And this is like the new kid on the block who just moved in 2 doors down and has all the cool stuff. You want to be friends with them. You like them. It has all the basic benefits of the boring old savings account, but with a far better interest rate and a fun aspect that all the other ones are missing. The two I personally use are called Yada Savings and Prize Pool. These accounts work like this. The money is held in a savings account at Evolve Bank, which is a real bank. You get entered into a weekly sweepstakes, and the more money you put in, the more entries you get. You're paid a base interest rate, and you earn prize money on top of that, depending on just luck. On average, these accounts get somewhere between probably like 1% and 3% interest for most people, and it kind of feels like you're playing the lottery or like you got entered into a raffle. So that's mildly entertaining. Like, I enjoy getting those notifications on my phone that say, hey, look, you won $10 or you won $20. Like, that's a lot more fun than Wells Fargo sending me a paper statement saying, you got 4 cents. Like, get out of here. Don't even send me that. The prize link savings account might just be that Goldilocks ratio of enough interest to be worthwhile, but also no real risk of loss like in the stock market. So the overall takeaway here is to have an emergency fund. Just have one at all. That's a big help if you don't have one yet. And after that, we can decide to get into the weeds and the nerd stuff on where we should put it, why we prefer this over that, and argue about why. The main help will come both financially and in relationships to just not have the stress of not having that money so that you can just cover the bill. We're gonna just cover the bill, get our AC working again, and it'll be awesome. I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope that your HVA system is working flawlessly. Mine is not, so I've got to go. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye. Wow, it is legit hot in here. Okay.